Good morning. Thank you for choosing to be here on a Sunday morning. If you are watching live here in Australia, I'm just going to give a few moments for people to jump on. Good morning. Thank you for choosing to be here on a Sunday morning. If you are watching live here, you may have heard me talking to you again. The joys of live streaming. So I'm just going to give people a couple of moments. I will see people jump on. Feel free, if you are joining us for the first time via a live stream event on YouTube, to jump into the chat. If you've got any questions, we will do our best to answer those, if appropriate, real time, and if not, we can save them to the end, and anything that we don't manage to address, I'll make a point of going back and having a look at those questions and responding accordingly at a later time. Okay, so yeah, feel free to be as interactive as you want to be. I know that a lot of us have had the opportunity to jump on to various live streams or to watch, via Instagram or Facebook when people are up. So it's the same process. Anything that you want to ask or comment on, by all means, just jump in the chat at any time and share those thoughts with us. Okay, so once again, I want to thank everyone for joining us on this Sunday morning. I have the lovely Jo with me from Healing with Jo, and she's going to share some thoughts with us in just a few moments. But what I thought I would do firstly is just kind of kick off today's live stream event in a couple of different ways. Firstly, I think it's appropriate to thank the traditional custodians of the land where I'm joining you from, and Jo's joining you from as well, the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past, present, and importantly, their emerging leaders of tomorrow. So, Wominjeka, or in Māori we would say, no mai haere mai, kia ora, welcome to today's event. I'm very, very happy to be here, and I know Jo's excited as well. And I thought it would be fitting to really ground us into this experience. And the title of the event, if anyone's been watching any of the lives that we've done in the recent days, Free from Trauma, it's not really about trauma itself. It's about freeing ourselves from that. And Jo's expertise, which she'll be sharing with us, the tools that she's going to be sharing are ones that we can put in our toolkit for use at a later time. I don't know about you, but I know for myself, there's the tried and tested ones that I've got, yoga being one of those. But sometimes the tools that we have in our toolkit aren't the ones that we need at that point in time. So she is here today to share those tools with us so that at a later time, hopefully not in a time of crisis, but at a later time, we can go back, dig into our toolkit and use those tools at that time. Okay. So I thought I'd start today by really just setting the scene around that, sharing a story with you, a personal story, of course. Back in 2008, grand final week, Hawthorn would go on in the AFL grand final to play the Geelong Cats. The week for me actually coincided with being my mum's last week on earth. And I spent that week at work, the way we deal with things, right? Now, from that experience, there's a couple of things that obviously stand out, but one of those is a conversation that I had with one of my team members, and they were complaining, whinging, don't ask me about what. And I remember reaching a point within myself where I just snapped, and reactively, I threw in their face that mum was dying. It was their response that still resonates in my mind. Well, what are you doing here then? A couple of weeks ago, I had that conversation with my friend and she said, well, what did you do? Did you leave? Did you go to the hospital? And the reality is, no, I didn't. I stayed at work. That's was my coping mechanism, essentially. Now, I think it's fair to say that that's a fairly big life trauma event. But I actually think it's the everyday that can oftentimes be a lonelier burden, the everyday pressures. And the reason being is that a lot of the time we go through these experiences on our own, whatever those experiences or those pressures are. So you'll hear me often talk about this because I think it's relatable. There's this term that the media are throwing around, which is a very true term, the cost of living crisis. Now, we might complain about it. It doesn't mean that we're openly going to share the pressures that we may be experiencing. Some of those pressures might be you choosing between paying the gas bill on time or putting gas in the car to get to work. Those are very real scenarios. Now, the reason why I'm sharing that with you is because, yes, I've experienced this big trauma in my life. We all have. It doesn't have to be the death of a loved one. But the size of the trauma doesn't in any way take away from how we feel as a result. If you're having to make choices for your family's financial well-being on a daily basis, how you feel as a result of that, in essence, is still going to be just as stressful, just as traumatic. The difference being is that a big life event is something that we, and I'm generalizing, we share. I shared that experience with my family. We all went through it together. We spoke about it because we went through the process, right? But I wouldn't necessarily ring my family up and say, hey, I'm in a bind. You know, I'm stressed out. So the difference being is that we're going through something on our own, and that feeling, or I use the term story because you may be familiar with that. You're going to hear Jo use looping. It's all the same thing. Those stories or those loops consistently play out in our minds over and over again. And the problems that we experience with that, with those traumas or those stresses, is that we're stuck in that experience. We're unable to get out of it. And what we need at that time might be a tool or a system or a process to allow us to get out of it. But we can't get out of it until we acknowledge that it exists and we free ourselves from it. And something that, you know, can free ourselves from that experience is simply by being open and talking about it and not making it, you know, a shameful experience within ourselves. And I think that's why the day-to-day is so-called more traumatic, because we're not openly sharing that. No one's checking in on us to say, hey, how are you doing with the cost of living crisis? Okay, so I just really wanted to level that experience out. Gabor Mate, who you may or may not be familiar with, one of the foremost experts in trauma. What I love about his messaging is that he normalizes trauma, so the size doesn't diminish the impact. Okay, so the size of a trauma for you or for me doesn't mean that the feeling is in any way different. So let's take whatever stresses we've got going on in our lives. They're still there. They'll be there later. Fortunately or unfortunately, they will be there later. However, free yourself up, jump into the experience. If you're a note taker, take notes. If you're like me, need to replay 100 times, then this will be there for you to watch later, of course. So whatever you need at this point in time, take the opportunity to just get into your presence. And by the end of it, our aim is that whatever stresses you have are made lighter from this experience. All right. So once again, thank you. I'm going to bring Jo on. Now, I do know how to drive this tool. However, bear with me just in case I, you know, in case I do something that I would often do. All right. So I am bringing the lovely Jo on.
Hello, hello.
Yay.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Hi, that was so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing why. And thank you for having me. And hello to everyone. My name is Jo from Healing with Jo. And yes, everything you said was so on point. We live in a stressful world at the moment. And yes, we've all had traumas and triggers and we've all experienced it, right? And it's not about the size of it. It's really not about the event. It's really about how we learn to deal with it. It's about what we do have within ourselves to cope and to heal our nervous system. And like you mentioned, our minds, because we can get caught up in these negative loop thoughts and, becoming aware is the greatest tool we have. So I've been working in this field of healing for 20 years now. Started with natural medicine and then moved into body work and kept on deepening and deepening with energy healing and lots of self-development courses. And I just kept applying it to myself because I personally experienced a lot of trauma in my life. And I started gaining awareness of how it was impacting my nervous system and how I was running at this rate of not ever being fully present and not fully being in my body. I just felt like I was constantly, ahead or behind. And probably a lot of us, whether we're aware of it or not, we're probably running in this way. And this is just a result of a lot of nervous system activation. And that can happen for a lot of different reasons. But today's beautiful event and the intention of it today is to create a beautiful safe space for all of us to really feel calm and to feel connected and to go back into this home that we live in, this body, this mind, this spirit, to create that safety within ourselves. Because we all have the ability, this incredible ability for self-healing and for self-regulation, and we forget. We are so used to, in a way, searching for the next great thing, the next quick fix, the next book, the next mentor, and we forget that we have this amazing ability within ourselves. So I really want to teach you guys some simple, practical movement and bodying techniques, but also simple, natural things that we can use that are free and available to us all that will help us really feel zen and calm and regulated so that we can start to free ourselves from trauma, from triggers, and just come back to that authentic self that we all want to, experience life as.
Absolutely. Jo, you mentioned something that I just wanted to kind of expand on. It was that point about running from self, feeling like you're having to catch up. I think we all go through that.
Yeah.
I went through that a dozen times this morning, right? So can you just expand a little on that for our audience? Because I think this is a really important point.
Yes. So when you look at a child, right? Children have this amazing ability of just being fully in their bodies. They are fully in the present moment. They're there, they're engaged, to the point where sometimes you can be speaking to them and they just zone everything else out. They are just fully there. And so what happens to us as adults when we do have nervous system activation and there's stress and we get revved up and everything speeds up and we learn to almost live like that as a normal way of living, we tend to have this split within ourselves. So we either exist more in the past, we're rethinking things that we've done, or we're, in our minds and in our bodies feeling painful memories, or we're always ahead. We're always thinking about what next thing needs to be done, what next chore, what next day, whatever it may be. So when we're kind of split between one or the other, we're not really fully in our bodies in the present moment with that person or with yourself. And so then you're missing out on the juice. Like, this is where your life force is. So when we're splitting ourselves like that, we're just doing ourselves harm. But we are able to do that. And so again, the embodying techniques that we're going to do to move our bodies today are really going to bring that essence into this moment, into this home that we live in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's a really beautiful point. And thank you for, firstly, that reminder. I think it's so easy to forget for those of us, whether or not you have children or not.
Yeah.
When they're not hearing us, they're in their presence.
Mm,
And
yeah.
when we're communicating with them, we're communicating from our future self, from our past self, from the stresses of what's happening in our environment.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's a really, really good point for us all to remember, that we're operating in all of these different, paradigms is what I'm going to use as a word. But ultimately, what we're talking about today and what you're going to be sharing with us is being present.
Yes. Yeah. It is the most incredible tool we have available to us. So before we stand up and start moving our physical bodies, I'd love for us just to close down our eyes and just go inwards for a moment. Just take a few deep breaths and just connect with the stillness inside you. And I want us to pull in the power of intention. So I'd like for you to think of an intention that you would like to experience for yourself today. When we combine the power of our thoughts with intention and then with movement, we really do create something magical. Beautiful. Okay, so hopefully everyone has some room in their space so you can get up and shake it with me and stretch with me and do some somatic tapping. I will talk you through some of these techniques and what they are actually doing, but let's enjoy. So I invite you guys so you can see me clearly. First of all, we're going to shake our bodies out, okay? This is the most simple way of shaking off whatever stressful energy may be flowing through your mind and emotional body in this moment. If you're having a stressful moment, literally shake it out, right? Just shake that energy out. We are multi-dimensional beings, so we can actually physically shake the energy and the stress physically out of ourselves. Another thing is grounding. So stomping your feet on the ground helps you immediately to ground into your body even more so. This will be great to do outside in particular, on just nature, feeling that electromagnetic energy pulsing through your feet. But if you're in home, that's okay. Another thing is dropping, heel drops. So if it's not comfortable to do stomping, just do some gentle heel drops. And just be really present with your body. Just really feel into what you are doing. And take some deep breaths. And then I'd like for us to do some beautiful twists. So you're actually tapping on the back, lower back of your body. And what we are doing here is we're stimulating our adrenals. As you let your arms flop on your back, you are stimulating your adrenals, which help with how we deal with stress. I'm sure we've all heard of adrenal fatigue. So we want to stimulate those beautiful organs that help us to cope with life stresses and pressures, you know? And just swaying. The nervous system really responds to beautiful restorative yin movements. So dancing in this form, swaying, humming, singing, all those things are very effective to calm a revved up nervous system. We're going to start now with some tapping. So just getting one arm out. This is a somatic practice. So we're stimulating along the meridians that flow through our body, just a gentle, comfortable pressure. And you're tapping up and down the top of your arm. And then underneath. Becoming more and more embodied as we do this. Moving your palm up and on the top. So every angle of the arm you are stimulating. Something that we don't normally do. All right? Waking up that physical connection and energy flowing through our bodies. It's nice, gentle taps. I'm going to stand up again. Once again, on the base of the back, you can use the back of your palms to be more gentle, stimulating those adrenals. Through the glutes, one of the biggest muscles in the body. Lots and lots of energy and emotions get stuck in these big muscles. Flowing down the back of your legs, tap, 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 all the way down to your calves. And up the front of your legs, waking up every part of our physical body. Just being really present, now going down the inside of your thighs, all the way down on the outside, and the hips. Taking a few nice conscious breaths. Just tune in and notice how you're starting to feel. Everything should be really flowing, circulation, lymphatic. The energy feels different already in my body. Moving to the back of our head, you can tap or you can massage. There's a lot of tension that we carry through this connection of the occiput, where the muscles connect up into the scalp. So we want to release that tension. Sometimes we have a lot of trauma and stress. We get headaches, you know, we get physical pains. Tapping the top of the head. We live in our mind so much, so we want to release some of the energy. On the forehead, on the third eye, gentle taps here, through the temples, gentle raindrops on the face. And you can do this for longer or shorter in your own time. Of course, you can spend more time where it feels good. And then just do some beautiful stroking, just beautiful self-healing, self-nurturing touch. Just stroking through your face and scalp, through the hair. Beautiful nurturing touch. Now there is a beautiful point behind the ear that if we stroke, just creating a V, and massaging up and down on both sides of our ear in the front and behind, we are stimulating the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve impacts the whole nervous system. And when you do this simple massage, self-massage, again, you're helping your nervous system to relax, your blood pressure, your heart rate. Everything starts to slow down. Everything has an opportunity to just rest. Even massaging the ears. There's so many beautiful reflexology points here. You know, healing doesn't have to be complicated. We have this incredible body and all these incredible points on our body that we can stimulate. Now doing a butterfly tap. So crossing your arms. We're going to do alternate gentle tapping over our chest. And take some deep breaths. And just stop and close down your eyes. And I want you to think of a memory or a person that brings you happiness and calmness. Just tune in with that thought, with that emotion. And then continue gentle tapping. Really embodying that happy thought into your physical being. And pause. And again, think of a happy memory, happy thought of someone you love, some place you love. Just take yourself there in your mind. And gentle tapping. How are we feeling? How are you feeling? Why? Do you feel different? I hope you all feel calmer.
I feel so different. I'm like, okay, hang on, you're working.
We're working, you're not going to sleep. We're going to go to sleep soon.
No.
Oh, God. Yes, it's quite incredible when you stop and just have a moment of like reflection. Oh, wow, like I feel a lot more zen, a lot more slowed down, a lot more present. You're embodied, you're there. So another beautiful technique is hugging. Now, whether that be hugging your loved ones, hugging, you know, a beautiful stuffed toy, hugging ourselves, using the magic of physical connection and touch. And if there is not another human person to touch, it can be a pet or, of course, yourself, really tuning in, swaying into it, really feeling into that magical, you know, there's a chemical reaction that actually happens when we have this physical touch. Dopamine, all our feel-good hormones start to release. So giving ourselves that nurturing, you know, giving ourselves again that presence of touch. I'm just filling all these little tools as we keep moving through. Yeah. And then, of course, you can watch this back and, you know, remind yourself of the little movements. If we keep moving, I'd like for us to move into stimulating our joints. So bring your attention to your feet now, and we're just flexing and extending our toes. So you may or may not see my feet, but I'm just putting all my focus on my toes. So through meridians and acupuncture, all the energy flows through all the joints. So again, something that we may not consciously focus on is moving our joints, other than the obvious, you know, exercise, but having a moment like this of restorative, conscious, tuning in with this simple motion of flexing. And hopefully you can see my feet. I'd like for us to just start rotating the ankles. Moving through those joints. Moving up to the knee joint, take one leg and hold it up so it's comfortable and rotate both directions, moving the energy through the knees. Helping circulation, joint health, and of course, any tension that's sitting there. And just cross-legged sitting, just rotating around, loosening up a lot of hip and back tension that tends to sit in our bodies. And of course, remembering to breathe. Moving with consciousness. Really feeling into what feels good. You know, the body's always speaking to us. Always indicating to us what it needs. It's just a matter of whether we're tuning in and listening and honoring. Just step forward, give yourself a nice back stretch. So you're just stretching out the lower back. Sitting up. And I want you now to do something called a spinal wave. So you're creating this motion, if you can, a sitting position, getting the energy to move through your spinal column, loosening up those vertebrae. It may not be super smooth, that's okay. You may notice some areas are just a bit stiff. The intention is just to get that beautiful spinal fluid to flow, getting everything to warm up and move the energy through. I'm breathing. Moving the energy into your hands, opening, expanding, and clenching. Releasing the tension that we hold in our hands. So many places I hold my tension in my jaw, my hips, I've realized. Some people really clench their hands. So just helping to move all those beautiful joints. Rotating the neck. Bit of a crunch in my neck. I don't know about yours. And now I'd love for everyone to lie back and get comfortable in your space. And hopefully you can see me. We're going to do some hip flexor opening. So one leg at a time, you're just rotating your leg out and allowing the hips to rotate and expand and release. And the other one. Very good for releasing even into the digestive organs, the womb, the uterus. Hugging those knees and just giving yourself a little back massage and rocking. And then just let yourself be comfortable, just staying on the floor. Really comfortable position. Closing down your eyes. I'm going to take us on a bit of an inner gaze journey. Just notice how relaxed you feel, how connected you feel. Maybe even a little bit energized, but in a good way, you know, everything's flowing and fluid. And just closing down your eyes, I really want you to experience that inner presence that is within us all. Moving your gaze with your eyes closed inwards. I want you to imagine with your eyes closed, you're looking inside of your head towards your left ear. Moving your gaze, eyes closed, towards your right ear. Looking straight up, like you're looking inside of yourself at the top of your head. Looking down, like you're looking through the center of yourself. Like you're looking down through the column of your spinal column and the channel that flows through us. The channel that is our nervous system, our energetic system with our chakras, the core of us. Just look down through and engage a beautiful pranic breath, breathing in pranic life force that is always around us. Breathe that in and send it down through this channel of your body. Breathe up through yourself and release. Breathing in pranic life force, filling yourself up, sending that beautiful healing energy down through this channel that you're looking down inside of yourself. Do this a few more times. Really tuning into that sense of aliveness within us all. That presence that is always there. It is a stillness. It is an expansiveness. It is not your thinking mind. It is your consciousness. And gently placing your hands over your heart. Enjoy that touch, that connection. Enjoy that moment that you're spending with yourself, honoring yourself, giving yourself this gift of calm, of self-regulation, of self-healing. And when you're ready, you can stay in this space, or you can gently come out. And now with presence, it can be very fleeting at first, but the more we do this, the more it becomes like this momentum. You know, it can be fleeting and small moments of pausing in a day or in a stressful moment situation. You have this awareness, you will have this now, to use this technique of just pausing and realizing that you are not your thoughts and you are not this chaotic energy that can take us over sometimes. But you can choose to shake it out. You can choose to take a moment to just breathe, tap, pause, and connect with that stillness. It's always there. And, you know, don't underestimate the small little moments, because they build over time and they become big, powerful tools. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be very simple, but very powerful.
I think that's a beautiful point that you raised just then. Very simple and yet very powerful.
Yeah.
Right? That experience there, I'm sure for anyone watching, if you've gone through that, or even just portions of it, you'll go, like, I'm grounded.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And now from this space, as opposed to the chaotic space that we tend to live in, we can move forward. And this is the place where you can, you know, take action.
Yes. Respond, not react. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's beautiful. How powerful. So tell me, Jo, how do people connect with you? How does it work?
Well, I suppose through Instagram would be the easiest. So I am available under Healing with Jo. That's probably the easiest. I am on Facebook as well, but more under my personal name. And yeah, and I have a beautiful space where I see clients, and I am going to be doing group therapy as well in Mornington. So there'll be private retreats and hopefully more online events such as this, so that we can connect with, you know, the wider world and share all this beautiful shifts that we all are more and more embarking upon and needing, you know. Yeah, yeah. There is more tools. I just don't know if we have the time. For example, I mentioned that there's free and available things with nature. So there's a lot of science now with the power of red light therapy with the sun. So there's a lot of beautiful, it's called heliotherapy. And the science is now recognizing that when the sun, particularly when it's rising, but also when it's setting, it gives off this beautiful red light, which is why we see the sky filled with orange and red, right? This red light therapy is actually really therapeutic for us. So a few minutes of gazing in those times of day is not harmful to our skin. It's not harmful to our eyesight. It's actually very therapeutic for us. And it makes us feel that calmness and that restoration. And it actually helps to regenerate our cells. You know, it keeps us healthy and keeps us feeling really happy and well. So it's incredible just what nature allows for us, right? Like, it's just this free and available tool, which finally science is catching up with and giving us.
Absolutely.
But
I think that's really like an important point, is that we do have resources. We just need to step outside. And I like that you said morning or evening, so sunrise or sunset, because
Yeah.
some of us may not be early birds.
Yep, I'm not.
Yeah, no, neither am I. I'm the latter, but you know, we can still take advantage of
Yeah.
what nature has to offer us.
Yes, absolutely. We've all heard of grounding, walking in our bare feet and connecting with the electromagnetic field, but the sun as well, you know, gazing upon those beautiful red light therapy. Another technique, if you're not big on all the movement, is again, if you're caught in the moment, I'm not sure if many people have heard of this, it's called access bars. It is a technique taught that really works on the subconscious mind. So we do an hour treatment of holding different points just mainly on the head. And it works on unraveling and deleting almost, if you like files in the subconscious mind. So it helps us to become much more, again, self-aware of how we view things, our viewpoints, things that we've collected over life, and how we kind of have constructed how we see reality. So there's this amazing technique where if you are caught and you start becoming aware of your thinking, you simply stop and you say, delete and uncreate that thought, right? So as you start catching these negative loops that we all tend to fall into, and you're like, hang on a minute, I'm going down that spiral again, stop and say, I delete and uncreate that thought. And it will shift, you'll shift. And then the more you do that, those files, those thoughts will no longer have power over you. It may take a few times, but you're gaining more and more awareness of yourself, and you're gaining control over. Your mind doesn't control you. You control your mind. You know, we control our feelings. We control everything. We are the creators, right? We are the architects. So it's just another fabulous little technique that I wanted to share for those that want to have something quick and easy to pull out and to try.
Absolutely. And I think this time of year for a lot of people, all these little systems and tools are going to be very helpful. We don't have to, you know, sit in a state of reactivity. Yeah, we can actually just take a moment to really just find that space for ourselves and get grounded. So that's wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you all feel.
Oh, absolutely. I know I did.
I do too. I feel great. I'm ready to go. Enjoy my Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, and one thing that I do want to share with the audience before we let you go and sort of take charge of your Sunday and enter into the back end of our year is that it really is from this space here, this feeling that we can make really good decisions, that we can take action. It's really hard to move forward, to take action when we're feeling triggered, when we're feeling stressed, you know, when we're going through whatever trauma or experience that we're going through. Now we're better placed to actually step into and move forward with. And I thought, you know, one final note for the audience today. It's not because I love telling stories. I think it's just all about perspective.
Yes.
You know, but 4.5 years ago was a real turning point for me. And the turning point upon reflection, again, came after the fact. And I call it my shower scene moment. And unforgettable for me, but I only recall because of the outcome of that, you know, those events that happened. But it was one of those moments that we may all experience, whatever that shows up looking like for you. I'm with my son getting ready, and the stresses of life were just, I'd reached that breaking point. I didn't realize I'd reached that breaking point, of course. Hindsight's a beautiful thing. And I had this moment where I snapped and started screaming in frustration and anger. And the moment was this little child looking back at me in fear. And our children can be beautiful mirrors, reflecting back what we need to see within ourselves. And in that moment, I realized for myself, I never ever want to reach this point ever again. And everything I've done since that moment has really led me to be where I'm at now. And the reason I share that story with you is because we don't have to experience a shower scene moment to take action and move forward.
Yeah.
This experience that Jo shared with us has shown us that we can just get into our bodies, to let go for a moment, and everything's okay. And all that has shifted is our perspective. Really, that's all that's changed. And the difference between now and that shower scene moment 4.5 years ago really is just ultimately perspective.
Mm.
You know, so we don't have to go through these big traumatic events to move forward with our lives, right, Jo?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to remind ourselves to remember that we all have this amazing ability within us to regulate like you have, right? And to self-heal and just to come back into that beautiful awareness. We all have it within us. Yeah.
And
And
sometimes
it's complicated.
tools.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Add to the toolkit. Amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with the audience today. This is the first Unsexy Truth bonus feature, and the podcast launches next week. So what a beautiful gift to send out to the universe than this one here, where people can become grounded and centered and really move forward. And be kind to yourselves, be kind to your families, and be kind to the strangers on the road who might be doing you heavy. Laugh at something, right? All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. Happy Sunday, happy holidays. Take care, and Jo, to you. Thank you too.
Thank you so much. Blessings. Thank you.